Good morning, dear students. Happy to see you today. As we have discussed that there were two different people have come into the valley of prophecy, but in both of them, the great stone face was not at all shown its likeness. Okay, and both of them were not expected to have been the likeness of the great stone face, but still, Ernest was very keenly observing at both the personalities, but both of them appeared to be, that means their outward appearance was completely like it would be the likeness of the stone face. But finally, the great stone face was not shown his likeness towards both of them. Even the poet was also not the likeness of this stone face. That information, once again, I would like to bring it back to you because it's been 3 days we haven't gone through this lesson. If I go little backwards, we will get back all our thoughts what we have read it. Okay, please come to page number 134, last paragraph. Why are you sad? Inquired the poet. Okay, this time Ernest was sitting in front of his cottage door, and by the time the poet arrived over there, he was just looking at the stone face. Okay, by the time he was looking so sad. Immediately the poet asked him why he was looking sad. Then what was his reply, you see? Because, replied Ernest, all through life I have awaited the fulfillment of the prophecy. You know, my forefathers to till now, to my generation, we were waiting for the likeness of the stone face towards one of the persons who is going to born as a noble person in this valley. But the prophecy had not come true. Still this day we are waiting for the prophecy to fulfill. And when I read these poems, I hoped that it might be fulfilled in you. Actually, when I was reading the poems that you were written there, all your poems were full of sadness or full of humbleness that you have expressed in your poems. Okay, by writing, because your thoughts are very clean, your ideas were very clean, but still you were not being the likeness of the stone face. Why you had not been the likeness of the stone face, I couldn't understand. Ernest didn't understand why this great stone face was not like this poet. Then, you hoped, answered the poet. Really? You hoped on me? You thought that I would be the likeness of the stone face? Then he says like this, faintly smiling, to find in me the likeness of the great stone face, I am not worthy to be its likeness. You know, you thought that I would be the likeness of this great stone face, but according to my personal assumption, and according to my perception, according to my own way of thinking, I think I will not be the likeness of the great stone face. I think you might like me. You might have liked me much, but I am not worthy to be the likeness of the stone face. Why, you know? He started giving the explanation why he can't be the likeness of the stone face. Let's come to page number 135. And why not, ask Ernest? He pointed to the book. Ought not these thoughts worthy? Okay? And why not, asked Ernest. Ernest was asking why you can't be the likeness of the great stone face. And he pointed to the book because the book in which he had written the poems were compiled together as a book. All the poems are really so beautiful and having much creativity. Okay, and almost all his poems are written on the basis of that, humbleness, and they were all so faithful. But looking at those poems, we can understand how faithful you are. Okay, your thoughts are worthy, your thoughts are valuable, your thoughts are really so good, clean thoughts you have, clean mind you have, but why you have not been the likeness of the stone face? You can hear in them the distant voice of a heavenly song, but my life, dear Ernest, has not corresponded with my thoughts. Of course, my thoughts also, but my deeds, my activities are not corresponded with the thoughts which I have written as in the form of poems. Here this poet was giving his explanation why he couldn't be the likeness of the great stone face, What's the problem? The poet's thoughts were not corresponded with, actually the poems in which he had written were not corresponded with the thoughts. The thoughts were written as in the form of poems, but those thoughts were not corresponded with him or with his life. It's of no use. Those are all worthless. Okay. The poet's thoughts were not corresponded with his life. Okay, the thoughts which were arise in the mind of the poet were written as in the form of poems. But these thoughts are not corresponding with the life of the poet. Understand, children? It means he was writing something, okay, his lifestyle is some other way. That means his lifestyle and the way he had written the poems were not having any correspondence. There is no association, there was no close association. Okay, they are not syncing, the thoughts are not syncing with the real life of the poet. If it is not syncing, he was living a different kind of life, Such kind of life is not the worthy life according to the great stone face. That's why the great stone face is refused to consider him as his likeness. Sometimes I have had grand dreams, but they have been only dreams. What this poet was telling, he had got so grand dreams, and all his dreams were just remained as dreams. Okay, the dreams have not come true. The dreams have remained as the dreams only. Sometimes I lack faith in my own thoughts. What happens? Sometimes he lacked faith in his own thoughts. He has no good faith upon his thoughts. So whatever the thoughts he was getting were so good, but he had no faith upon the thoughts that he had, the thoughts which are rising in his mind. Okay, and why then, pure seeker of the good and true, should you come to find me in the face of the mountain? Why then, pure seeker of the good and true? Actually, who was seeking the good and true? The great stone face was looking for the good and true with the people. So when this great stone face was observing very keenly at this man, the poet, he had not found any good or truth in him. Okay, of course he was getting the thoughts, but he had no faith upon them. So such life is not at all a good life. It's not at all considered as a noble life. And the poet spoke sadly, and his eyes were wet with tears, so too were those of Ernest. Both poet and Ernest started shedding their tears. Why? Okay, there must be a reason to shed our tears, no? Okay, actually this poet was such a humble man, but his way of living is different, and the way he gets the thoughts and writing them as poems is different. There was no close association, there was no correspondence at all. So that's why he feels sad about his misfortune, and Ernest thought that this poet might be the person on whom this great stone face was having a great belief, to choose him as a noble person. So both of them started crying. They were too sad. They were conversating with each other, and they shared their thoughts, and they actually have very good minds and thoughts, but their life has not at all proven them, or not at all proved this poet as the noble person. At hour of sunset, as had long been his custom, Ernest was to speak to a group of neighbors in the open air together, and he and the poet went to the meeting place arm in arm. See, the poet and Ernest, both of them started walking to the place where they have a custom. Do you know what does it mean by custom? Okay, customary practice in the sense, habitually we are doing something and it has become a lifetime activity. Every day you started doing yoga, in the sense yoga has become your custom of doing, as early as possible that you get up from bed. Okay, whenever you get up from bed, you'll be taking your yoga mat and you are spreading on the ground and you'll be started doing yoga. It has become your custom of doing it. In the same way, Ernest and this noble man whom we consider, okay, the poet, both of them started walking. Ernest went to a place where he usually meet his neighbors. A group of neighbors were gathered together in an open air. Together, he and the poet went to the meeting place. Okay, the poet and he in the sense Ernest, went to that meeting place. They went there arm in arm. That means you just think about their friendship. You just think about their closeness. Okay, they have become intimate friends to each other. From there could be seen the great stone face. From that spot on, he could see the great stone face. Ernest threw a look of familiar kindness. What did he do? Ernest threw a look of familiar kindness around upon his audience. He was looking at his audience like as if he had very good, the closeness, and he started looking at them with out of kindness. Okay, and he began to speak to the people what was in his heart and mind. He started speaking to the group of people, his neighbors, okay, with his heart and mind. His words had power. See, some most important points are written here. The first point is he started speaking to the group with his heart and mind. He had got clean heart and clean mind. That's why nothing was hidden in his mind and heart. He started speaking to them, and his words had full of power. Okay, his words have power because they agreed with his thoughts. Who agreed with his thoughts? The entire group, the neighbors of him started believing in his thoughts. They all agreed with his thoughts, and his thoughts had reality and depth. What kind of thoughts this man had? Okay, Ernest had the thoughts which were real and they had some depth because they harmonized with the life which he had always lived. What does it mean by harmony? Harmony in the sense we all should live with peace and harmony. That means great peacefulness can be seen in his words. His words had power. His words and his life and his thoughts have depth and reality. Especially the stone face was looking at all these features. Whoever has got all these features, the most important features in him, okay, they will be putting their belief in them. Harmonized with the life which he had always lived, it was not mere breath that the preacher uttered. They were the words of life. It was not mere breath that the preacher uttered. They were the words of life. They were not just words. The words have power, and those words are also so real. And it was not just mere breath and the preacher uttered. What does it mean by the word preacher? Preacher is nothing but a teacher, a person, one who gives a right or a long talk upon some good message is nothing but a preacher. A preacher is a messenger, one who brings the message, one who brings the word of God. And all these good features can be seen with Ernest, you see. There were the words of life. Whatever the words that he was uttering, they have life. And a life of good deeds and selfless love was melted into them. So what kind of features can we see here? Good deeds, very good activities, or very good, he performed good activities, and also selfless love. Usually we show love to the people expecting something in return, but here Ernest shows the love which was selfless love. Okay, it was melted into them. So such selfless love is melting into them. The poet, as he listened, felt that the life and character of Ernest were a nobler strain of poetry than he had ever written. Actually, this poet was also observing Ernest very closely. Okay, according to Stoneface, whatever the Stoneface was expecting the person to get the noble birth in the Valley of Prophecy, exactly those qualities were found in Ernest. Understand? So, Ernest's life is an exemplary life, and he had seen his character of him, and the poetry which he had written, the poet had written, was full of strain. So much of strain that he had put on writing the poetry. But that poetry is, okay, the life of Ernest is much better than, okay, it's much better than the poetry that he had written. His eyes filled with tears. He said to himself that never was there so worthy as sage, as that mild, sweet, thoughtful face with a glory of white hair diffused about it. Actually, now Ernest was not a young man. Ernest was not a boy even. He had come to his old age. But now at his old age, still he was so worthy, and selfless love he was showing, and he was pure at heart and mind, and his words have power. All these qualities, the equal qualities, whatever the Stoneface was expecting in a person who is going to get the birth in the Valley of Prophecy, was exactly it had seen in Ernest. What going to happen next, we will be learning in the next class. Until we meet again, goodbye children.